Welcome back to the Justice Factor. DA leader Helen Zille took the political establishment by surprise a few weeks ago when she announced that she will not be available for election at the party's conference this weekend. New leaders are now vying for the top post and to define the future of the party. Political analyst Levy Ndou from the Tshwane University of Technology and Mzoxolo Mpolase from Political Analysts South Africa join me now to discuss the implications of these developments. Guys, welcome to the show. Mzoxolo, let me start with you. How important is this conference for the DA, really?
Well, it's important, as with any Congress, because now you get to actually shape where the party is going, leadership-wise. But as you obviously would have heard from Gana's talk earlier as well, is that it's so plugged into the reality of South Africa. So in some sense, it is a vote or a Congress that will try to break away from the current mold, in that the DA tries in earnest to make itself more palatable to South Africa and South African voters, if they are to ever get the goal of going to the union buildings, as he said.
Well, you never know. Levy, do you agree with that? That this is where the DA needs to say, I got 22%, I might have a chance at 35%. Is that what's key here?
Well, yeah, this is one of the most important conferences of the DA. If you look at the history of the party under Helen Zille, we have actually observed tremendous growth in the party. And now that she's gone, somebody who must take over from her is supposed to make sure that the party grows. And at the same time, the perceptions that are there in society that says the DA is a white party, now they are at a moment where they actually have to prove to everybody that the DA can also be led by anybody, including the blacks that we have in South Africa. So it's quite a crucial moment for the Democratic Alliance.
The conversation around race in the DA, isn't there something to be said about saying, what do you guys have to offer the poorest of the poor in this country? What do you have to offer, if one is to put it that way, to black people in South Africa? If rather than offer Justice Malala or Levy Ndou, offer a program, isn't there a disjunction in this conversation?
Well, to my mind, it's not so much really every party in South Africa has got the phraseology down to the nail about representing the poor, being pro-poor, and all of this stuff. For the DA, the true test, race comes in when it's about, yes, you're doing all of these things, but can you be trusted to be not that stereotypical white person that the black voter has and has grown up to understand? So that is it. That is a fundamental question around the race issue in the DA. Not necessarily that how many individuals are there, but does the party's policy, ideology actually speak to that? Is it to be trusted in essence? Does the black voter trust that this white man or woman, or even black woman or man in the DA, will they stand for my interests? So to my mind, that is how it boils down. Not necessarily that would they represent the poor. You look at their policies, they've got this sort of redress and all of this delivery sort of phraseology and language. Every party has that. And the poor know this, voters know this, but then it goes back to that question, can you be trusted to represent the...
And let's look at these two candidates, Levy. When you look at them, you've seen some of the interviews they've done, can they be trusted? Are they the right people to lead the DA right now?
Well, the members of the Democratic Alliance must actually answer to that. And we're actually going to get the correct answer over the weekend. But I think what is important... This is
someone who doesn't want to give me...
No, but then I think what we need to do is to look at both of them holistically, where they're actually coming from. And you have Maimane, a young politician who is full of energy. He's now the leader of the opposition in Parliament. And I think he's actually doing a great work. And also, if you look at the support that he has, especially in Gauteng, and also the manner in which he raised issues in Parliament, you would actually say, wow, the DA has a very, very good person that can take this party forward. But also at the same time, you have James, who has been in the party for a very, very long time and who understands the party very, very well. And if there are issues that, the difficult issues, the ups and downs in the DA, that is the relevant person that knows all these issues. He understands the traditional support of the Democratic Alliance. He knows where the Democratic Alliance is coming from. He also has sufficient experience that can also take the DA forward. But I think now, at the same time, whether we like it or not, we're always going to talk about the race factor in the DA to say, if you continue having a white person in the DA, obviously some perceptions will say, well, they're not prepared to change. They don't want to accept a black person to lead the Democratic Alliance. But also at the same time, if you have both of them, you're also saying that the DA has changed. We're not interested in the color. Anybody that can come in, as long as this person has sufficient support, this person can take the DA to greater heights. But I'm a bit concerned about the slate factor in the DA, because that is a recipe for distraction in the political party.
Let me move on from this question and look at the DA's history and what it's been doing, particularly in Parliament. It's been going on under Helen Zille, under Musimamani in Parliament now. There's a corruption narrative that the DA has gone on, you know, Jacob Zuma, Ngandla, and so forth. How powerful is this? Can it go on, or does it have a sell-by date, Mzoxolo?
Well, the way the party has the strategy is that, yes, as you say, raise corruption issues, raise service delivery deficiencies, and then say, well, the DA, where the DA governs, we deliver, therefore we hold ourselves to a higher standard. At the local government level, it actually doesn't have that much of a sell-by date. As we know, many of our municipalities are in disarray. So it then becomes this easy sell of saying, well, do you want your municipality that is governed by the ANC to improve? Here we are as the DA. But then, of course, at the national level, where you have the EFF plugging into the same narrative, and then now you're starting to compete for the same space, because the very corruption, the very lack of service delivery, the political interference has also become the phraseology that's used by the EFF. So there may be a need to realign at that level. And then, of course, maybe making the argument much more sophisticated, because currently it's just basically corruption, 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 and not so much about the alternative narrative. But at least at the local government level, they've made some inroads with that kind of narrative.
Shortly, both of you, one of Helen Zille's big projects was this realignment of opposition politics, talking to COPE, talking to others, and talking about a possible coming together, if not a merger, full-on. Is this still on the table? Can a leader, a new leader, should a new leader even attempt to resuscitate this idea?
Well, I would think that is dead in the water, because many of those parties have somewhat become irrelevant. But the vision there, you know, even they were saying that, the DA, they were saying that, you know, they want to have, you know, they have shadow ministers and all of this stuff, which is all this phraseology from the United Kingdom's politics, to have this alternative government. In order to have that, you'd need to consolidate the vote of, or the share of votes by opposition parties. But it would not necessarily get in the case. These are varying ideologies, and of course with EFF there, what do the EFF and the DA have in common if that discussion were to continue?
Levy, unfortunately we've run out of time. 30 seconds, each one of you. What will a new leader need to do to take the DA from the 22% that it got in last year's election to 35% and 40%? Very briefly.
Well, the new leader must be able to go out and galvanize sufficient support from different races in South Africa and be as open as possible to the general membership in order to be able to identify the challenges that they face as a party and develop new strategies to ensure that the party grows from 24 up to 30.
Mzoxolo?
To my mind, bolster the structures. Indeed, the party has been doing well in that regard. Establish more presence in rural areas, and then also address that question I raised earlier around the trust issue and around the policies. How do you ensure that whoever is the party head is actually seeing yes, the message palatable, but to be trusted as well.
Mzoxolo, Mpolase, Levy, Ndou, thanks so much for your time. It's been fantastic. After the break, our winner and loser of the week.